Hey, thanks for joining us this week on Around the Maritimes, the official English language podcast of the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League. This week, Dave Curnow and I break down all the happenings of the Maritime Division. Very happy to sit down with Travis Crickard, the St. John Sea Dogs. We're in town to take on the Halifax Mooseheads and had a chance to sit down with him in the locker room for about a good hour conversation. We talk everything from Hockey Canada, this year's Sea Dogs, New Zealand ice hockey, pro wrestling, and that exchange we had on the bench a few years ago where nothing was going right, and he was short and to the point on his answer when I asked him what he liked with that start. You know what? There's a lot to like with this podcast. Let's start it right now. Dave Curnow joining me on Around the Maritimes. And Dave, I am so looking forward to getting a chance to call some Cape Breton Eagles games with you coming up this week. We've got Chicoutimi on Friday, and then next Friday, Rouen-Noranda as the Eagles host the next 2 weekends for us on QMJHL Friday Night Hockey. Dave, you've been at the nest. I would love your impressions of the Eagles so far this year.
Sure thing. Yeah. I think like you talked about on this podcast before, and it's been no secret that this is a young team. There was a lot of turnover in the off season. Couple of mainstays are still there. This is a very young roster, very fresh faces, if you would. Um, the one thing that I will say about this team, there's going to be a lot of learning. There's going to be a lot of development bumps in the road as this season progresses. But the thing that really stood out for me in the couple games I saw this weekend against Moncton, there's grit, there's determination. This team, they're going to be a tough out each and every night. They come prepared to play. Yeah, they make mistakes because that's just part of being young and growing in this game. But they are willing to learn. And again, these guys work incredibly hard. That is a trademark of a Sly Couturier team, as we've come to learn and know over the course of the years. Roman L'Italien, to me, uh, he's the real deal for the Eagles. Their first round pick there last season. I can already see development in his game, which is fantastic for the Eagles. They're going to lean extremely heavily on Tommy Utah, your boy Tommy Utah. He and Will Murphy on the back end, they are going to log a lot of minutes early on in this season. I can see it already. The other thing that I really like about this team is their goaltending. I think Hamel was a good pickup. He's looked pretty good in the few games that he's played so far, and I really liked Connor Towley. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I really liked him in training camp, and it looked like it parlayed into his start that he had against the Sea Dogs. So again, this team is going to have bumps in the road. There's going to be a lot of learning and development, but I really like their grit and determination.
Dave, when we take a look at the standings as we go into this weekend and we see currently, I don't know, it is a very, very small sample size. Moncton's missing some players. You're still trying to shake things up, but we just talked about how the Cape Breton Eagles are going to be a tough out, and it looks like, they're going to be at the bottom of these maritime teams. These maritime teams this year, there is not an easy game among them because from 1 through 6, there is talent and depth on all our clubs this year. There is no slouches.
Couldn't agree more. And you're absolutely right. When I looked at the Maritime Division or the Eastern Conference, if however you want to position it, I kind of grouped them with the 6 teams in 2 groups. Your top 3, and at this stage of the season, it's kind of a coin flip as to who would beat who on any given night. And I in the top group, I would have the Moncton Wildcats, the Newfoundland Regiment, and the Charlottetown Islanders. Those teams right now, the Moncton Wildcats, again, seeing them this weekend up here in the nest. Yeah, you know what? That's a team that they're going to figure it out. Gardner McDougall is going to figure that out. It's a pretty much a new roster. Guys are just learning to play with each other, but you can see it. They're gonna they when it all shakes out, I do anticipate seeing the Moncton Wildcats at the top of the division. Caleb Dainmoyer out of the lineup. Obviously, he comes back. That's a huge boost in the arm for that team. The Newfoundland Regiment, not a team to sleep on. The Charlottetown Islanders, they've got something good cooking right now. And then in that bottom half, like you talked about, Mavs, right between Halifax, the Sea Dogs, and the Cape Breton Eagles. Again, talent galore, tough outs each and every night, tough points to get.
We had a chance to see the Sea Dogs this past week against the Mooseheads, and I've got a 45 minutes with Travis Crickard coming up. I was really impressed by the back end of the St. John Sea Dogs, and they bring in a guy named Everett Baldwin, who's a fifth round draft pick for the Tampa Bay Lightning to shore up that that side. They have they have so much depth, and they basically restocked and reshuffled the cupboards. I know a lot of people are pointing towards what Moncton has done in the offseason, but I think what St. John has built this year, if they are able to keep everyone around next season, they're going to be extremely dangerous. But right now, I think they're primed to really surprise some kids and surprise some teams, and especially with the emergence of Alexi Joseph this weekend, for him to finally find the back of the net and open it up with a hat trick. This is this team is just starting to scratch the potential that they have. It really is going to be making sure that everyone's on the same page at St. John.
Again, couldn't agree more. Same idea, right? When I look down that Sea Dogs roster, it is so young yet so talented. Rozzy, Chartron, Joseph, Yared, Moran, and again, the list can keep going on and on. You talk about Alexi Joseph. Looking down that roster just the other day, he's the biggest kid on the team, and he's 16 years old. Like this isn't crazy. This is crazy, but you're right. If 2 years time, if they can keep the band together, look out. The St. John Sea Dogs are going to make noise in the QMJHL. And the other thing too is if you two other things on the Sea Dogs that I'd point out is they've gone out and they found yet another effective Latvian player who's on their number one C right now. Merninkas, I think is how you pronounce it.
Murnix.
Murnix. See, hey, this time of the year is every broadcaster's favorite time when they got to learn new names, right, and how to pronounce them. And the other thing on the Sea Dogs is I'm really happy for Angelo Fullerton. Really happy that he found a spot on the Sea Dogs. He was such a great Eagle, great energy guy. Again, he's not going to put up a ton of points, but he is going to bring a ton of energy. And it's great to see him be able to go home and wrap up his junior career as a Sea Dog.
No, yeah, I had a chance to chat with him earlier in the day, and yeah, the smile on his face was ear to ear, and he went out there and really set a tone physically with the St. John Sea Dogs, and that is one of the things that I think when we talk about the teams in this division is there's a lot of teams that took a look around the league and decided that they needed to not just get faster, but needed to get bigger and tougher, and that was one thing with the St. John Sea Dogs. I really see that with the Charlottetown Islanders, especially with the addition of the Peddle brothers.
Oh yes, the Peddle brothers, yes, for sure. Obviously great to see them get together. Brady slotting in right now in that top pairing with Marcus Kiersey. Tyler looking to rekindle the offensive flair that he had with Drummondville, a little bit in St. John. So again, he's going to get his reps in the top six for the Charlottetown Islanders. He and Jude Heron, I believe, are on the same line right now. But speaking of the Charlottetown Islanders, Will Shields, right? This is a kid who came into the league, drafted the first round by the Cape Breton Eagles, mostly because of his offensive prowess, and didn't really find that in Cape Breton and kind of struggled after the trade to Charlottetown. But it looks like he's off to the races this year. We'll see if he can continue that streak. Matty Butler, of course, had a fantastic year. Marcus Kiersey's health, he had health issues last year, in and out of the lineup, mostly out for the Islanders. That was a big blow for them. But I think the story out of Charlottetown right now has to be the play of Donald Hickey.
Yeah, and when we talk about Donald Hickey again, this is a guy who is the first at the rink, and when it's not hyperbole, he's beating the rink staff to the rink. Jim Holton says it's unlike anything he's ever seen. The kid is knocking on the door to ensure that he is getting on the ice all the time and very serious. And Donald Hickey, Matt Butler, Marcus Gears, the boys had a homecoming this weekend over Newfoundland. What a weekend there for the Islanders over at the Mary Brown Center.
What a weekend indeed it was. And speaking of the Newfoundland Regiment, and it's just what a story it's been for them to start the season. They get the defending champs in their opening weekend. They take 2 of 2. And then the Charlottetown Islanders come to town full of Newfoundlanders, local kids going home to get moms cooking and cooking up a storm at the Mary Brown Center. They did indeed. And Donald Hickey and Matt Butler stars 1 and 2 in that second game as they took 2 from the Newfoundland Regiment and ruining their perfect home record. But just again, speaking of Newfoundland, had a chance to talk to some folks in their camp today. They couldn't be any more happy. Obviously, they would have enjoyed beating Charlottetown at least one of the two. But in terms of how it has impacted the community, 3 of the 4 games have been sellouts at the Mary Brown Center. The product on the ice has far surpassed their expectations of what it would be. And I give them also credit is, again, they've had 2 weekends now, and they've already identified areas where they want to improve the fan experience because the the people that are coming out to the games they're so invested, they're so involved, and they're taking all that feedback, and they want to really make this a community team. So again, hats off to them. The other thing too, Mavs, you and I could probably say from one broadcast team, like you say, we cover the Eagles, one broadcast team to another. Seth Hyde and Brian Rogers have had some epic calls already for the Newfoundland Regiment. So it's been entertaining, and you're right.
I
Go
love
ahead.
that. I love that when his mom won the 50-50 stuff.
50-50.
That is it Roger? Is the color
Yeah,
commentator? Yeah,
Brian Rogers.
just start saying, "Hey, now you can get your mom to bring us up some Big Marys." She won like $47,000. I know that sometimes the price of things in Newfoundland is a little exaggerated, a little bit extra because you have to go across the island. How much is a Big Mary in Newfoundland there, Dave?
It's a great question. It's been a while since I've been home to have one, but no, that's a great question. Now I'm wondering, is Mrs. Gillis going to win the 50-50 at the Eagles game and bring some cookies?
My folks are on the West Coast. They're scouting the WHL. They're out. They might get to a Victoria game. They're out seeing my brother out west. So we won't get cookies. Mom's cookies, as declared by Commissioner Mario Cicchini, the
Right.
best cookies in the league. It's fact. Do not argue it. We have got the video evidence of them being the best cookies in the league. But mom and dad are out in Victoria so the first 2 weeks of Friday night hockey, there will be no chocolate chip cookies for the Eastlink crew. It is. I might have to go down to. I might have to get some of the Decadents and fill the bags up there and try to pass them off as moms. We've got Chicoutimi and Rouen coming in to take on Cape Breton in the next 2 weeks back to back. Chicoutimi, this looks like, I know a lot of people are pointing to Blainville. Chicoutimi in this division they're going to be the team that's rivaling Moncton this year.
Couldn't agree more. Another big ad by them in snatching Xavier Dag off the Eagles. I've always liked the game that Xavier Dag brought to the Eagles roster. I feel like he might be one of the most underrated D-men in the league. He's so poised and so confident in the way that he plays the game. He's not a flashy defenseman, but he can shut down guys. He can contribute offensively. So that's a sneaky big ad for the Chicoutimi Sags to what you say, Mavs. A team that is certainly building and has been building for this season with Maxime Massé looking to have an impact. Emile Guité, Alex Wang, now Xavier Dag. Again, this team, you're right. Once they get everything going in the right direction, look out. They are definitely going to challenge, if not be that number 1 seed in the East.
for Rouen coming to town. I know that's they're looking at a middle pack team, but they're already playing up. Charlie Benengo and J7's coming back to Nova Scotia for a couple games, so we'll of course be highlighting the local kids as they make their trip around. But what do we know about the Huskies?
Well, the Huskies again, for them, they kind of pushed the chips in. I believe last season. Last season was a tough season to be pushing the chips in, with so many teams making runs. Moncton, Rimouski, obviously hosting the Memorial Cup. Again, we thought Chicoutimi might make a run. Rouen was also one of those teams that was very high up in the standings, very high up in the league, and obviously didn't finish the season the way they wanted to. So they were in rebuild mode. Trading off their biggest piece, Bill Zonin goes to Blainville in a big trade. Some draft picks come back in return. So Rouen is going to be one of those teams that's probably going to be middle of the pack, maybe even closer to, but hovering around the bottom. I fully expect them to be a playoff team. But that's a team much like the Eagles, right? There's going to be a lot of learning, a lot of development, a lot of tough nights for the Rouen-Noranda Huskies.
Yeah, and just as we're getting closer to having a chance to chat with Travis Crickard, I just want to go over a couple things that came up around the time, and we see here. I just want to give a shout out, Dave Leblanc, the longtime voice of Center 200, be with the Cape Breton Eagles, Cape Breton Oilers. He retired this week, and Dave, you and I have heard Dave's voice quite a bit in that building, and I can remember hearing it on the radio back home as a kid. Dave, congratulations on everything you accomplished here in Cape Breton hockey.
Yeah, just a tremendous individual. When I first moved here, I was fortunate enough. I got onto a couple of organizing committees. One was for when Cape Breton hosted the World Under-17s, and that was the first time I had a chance to meet Dave and work with him in a hockey capacity. A fine gentleman, tremendous voice, hard guy to replace because he does have that booming, prototypical, if you would, in-house announcer voice. He will certainly be missed, but we wish him all the best.
And you won't meet a bigger fan of the Detroit Red Wings than Dave LeBlanc. So Dave, will be watching for how your Wings do moving forward. And shout out Alexi Joseph, first career hat trick. Didn't happen the night before when we had the game on Eastlink. That was the only thing. Now, that's just me being selfish wanting to call. Gareth with some great calls on Alexi Joseph's hat trick there. The final one with 0.9 seconds in the empty netter. But this is a kid that, again, he has gotten better with every shift. And even the night before, wasn't afraid of mixing it up. He was grabbing Eddie Doyle, and the two of them were having a little scrum as the buzzer went.
Yeah, like you say, right? This kid he's 16 years old and he's 6'4", 210 pounds. So there's not going to be too many people in this league that are going to be able to push him around. And I think you're right, Mavs. Now that he's got that monkey off his back, obviously he comes into the league with a ton of hype, being the number one overall pick. And now that he's got that monkey off his back, I think the sky's the limit for this kid.
And finally, shout out to Matt Butler's friends and family over in Newfoundland. The great homecoming there. The Islanders were able to capture all of Matty's friends out in all the various jerseys he's worn over the years. And I love to see that. Again, that's good Newfoundland hospitality on the come home.
Yeah, and like we talked about earlier, right? The boys from the Charlottetown get a chance to go home and play in front of their friends and family at a raucous Mary Brown Center, and great to see those kids again. Much to the detriment of the Newfoundland Regiment team and their fan base, Matty Butler and Donald Hickey put on a show, and as the owner of the regiment told me earlier today, Donald Hickey stood on his head, and rightfully so, receives first star, and Matty Butler right behind him in second star. So again, great homecoming for those kids, and hope to see more of it this season.
Matt Butler right now the highest scoring Newfoundlander in the league with 5 points. Ross Campbell, 6 points, the highest scoring kid from PEI. Will Shields, 4. He's got 3 goals and an assist. And then Tyson Gogan, 4 goals, 2 assists for 6 points as the highest scoring kid from Nouveau Brunswick. So that's our rundown of around the Maritimes. Dave, judging by the clock on the wall, you and I have got to get ourselves ready for Friday night hockey because on the other side we've got Cape Breton versus Chicoutimi, or if you're watching this on the replay, Cape Breton versus Rouen. But Dave, I appreciate taking the time to hop on board here. And now coming up, we go from Newfoundlander Dave Curnow to Newfoundlander Travis Crickard, the head coach of the St. John Sea Dogs, coming up right here on Around the Maritimes. So I know what you're all thinking. It's fall classic time. The World Series and baseball playoffs are just around the corner, which means a lot of afternoon games. And you're asking yourself, how can I keep up with the team with the best record in baseball, the Milwaukee Brewers? Well, thankfully, with the TiVo Stream app, we got you covered right here because you get that, and all of a sudden, boom, you click on, and there it is. Baseball playoffs as it's happening. Oh, geez. That is I'm sorry. That is a telecast that's copyrighted by Major League Baseball, and I currently do not have the express written consent to show that clip. But Yankees are up 1-0 in the third. Anyways, but hey, as I said, TiVo Stream, the app on the phone. You got it at your Android Play Store or Apple, wherever you got your apps. I know the Eastlink corporate's going to hate me for saying that because I don't know a lot about iPhones. I know this is the iPhone 17 right now, and you can get that at Eastlink. And sure, it's a great phone, but you can use the Eastlink TiVo Stream app on all of these platforms with your subscription, and you won't miss a moment of the Milwaukee Brewers and their run to the World Series. Catch it with Eastlink. Finally, live in a locker room, Travis Crickard. Let me talk to you. Your Sea Dogs team right now, and again, saw them last night. Really fast, a lot of talent, a lot of skill. What do you like with your group right now?
I think it's just that the exciting talent, the skill, and the speed. I think it's a bit of a different makeup of the team in comparison to the past couple seasons, and I feel like the forward group that we have right now. We feel pretty comfortable that kind of any line can play and play against other teams' best players and potentially generate some offense. So we feel like we have a pretty good depth.
Defensively, the whole back end has been kind of revamped here, and it was our first look at Everett Baldwin last night. I mean, he showed why he was picked by the Lightning. What do you like about your crew on the blue line?
Yeah, it is a very different makeup. I would say that probably the most immediate tangible thing you can see is the size. We want it to be harder to play against down low and around our net. So that'd be number one. Number two, I think we have a lot more mobility. Thinking of Baldwin, Duhamel, Chartrand, Wasmer, we have some guys who can really move out there. And then I think the third thing is just looking at the decor. Like we kind of are at a bit of a luxury right now where we have like left-handed guys on the left side, right-handed guys on the right side. It is a bit difficult to kind of play your offside on the back end. So having that luxury is, I think, going to be a huge advantage.
Alexi Joseph. It was the Alexi Joseph draft, and you had first overall. What have been your overall impressions of him so far?
Probably two things you don't see when he's playing. One is he's a very humble young man. He wants to learn. He's very, very coachable, asks a lot of questions. And two, he's very, very competitive. Like assistant coach Mark Lee and I, we talk about it all the time when we're in practice and we're doing a competitive drill. Man, that guy hates to lose. So I really like that mentality coming in as a 16-year-old. That we don't really need to maybe teach that competitiveness to him. He's already bringing that.
He was getting right into the end and mucking up there with Eddie Doyle, and I mean he was grabbing headlocks and getting he's not afraid of that rough stuff.
No, not at all. I think he understands that just by nature of his size, he's capable to engage in those things. And also too, when you see a guy of that size, you probably don't think, oh, this is a 16-year-old. So I don't think he's a player who has any fear in that regard.
You talked about how you've got so much skill in your front 12. And in the interview last night, it really is trying to manage. Everyone wants time in the PP. Everyone wants the ice time. What's it been like for you as a challenge to balance that out?
Yeah, I think part of that is helping the guys understand like what value that they bring to the table, and the other part is if a player wants more, they must already be doing great in what they're kind of given. So if you're kind of getting 14 or 15 minutes of ice time, and maybe you're on like a second power play unit or on a penalty kill unit, and if you're doing great in those minutes you're doing, like absolutely, like be demanding of more. But if there are times where maybe you could be doing a little bit better, like let's focus on that first. Let's be great in those minutes, and then we can look at escalating the ice time.
I want to go back to the drafts in the last couple of years, and you've been no stranger to taking picks of Americans and kids that may or may not be showing up. And now all of a sudden it's paying dividends, and really you were ahead of the curve on that rule change. What was kind of your philosophy going into those drafts and with those kids available?
Well, I think like I'll speak like specifically about like this draft. I thinking about it was an 09 draft obviously, but there were a lot of others, 08s and 07s. I think there was even an 06 taken. I think it was just a matter of thinking about how can we make our team as competitive as possible as soon as possible. And with the borders opening up, so to speak, and having a much greater like population of players to pull from, we just felt like, why don't we try to see if we can pluck some of these guys out of the U.S.? We're pretty close to the border. It should be relatively easy to get them up for a visit and communicate them and make the families feel like the players coming into like a safe, comfortable environment where they can develop. And I think the other thing too that may be of advantage is that St. John is primarily an English-speaking place. So I think the American families probably feel some comfort in that as well. So that was kind of the logic behind it, really.
It was an off season unlike any you'd have in junior hockey, and you talked about how it was about making the sales pitch. What were some of the differences this off season compared to the years past that you really, I guess, were able to thrive in?
Yeah, I think we've really invested in our development program, and I'll give a lot of credit to owner Scott McCain and President Trevor Georgie for having that willingness to invest in it. So we're really trying to take a holistic approach to the players' development. So not just the on ice, where we have our full-time coaches, but then we also have Jamie Heffernan, who's with Tampa Bay Lightning, working exclusively with us on the ice. But then we also have a team of people off the ice, such as Natasha McLaughlin-Chason, working with our players regularly on their nutrition, and Dr. Ashwin Patel, who's working with the players in the mental performance side. But I think what is kind of separating us in that regard is these people aren't coming in and just giving a presentation and going away for a month or two. Everything that they're doing is individualistic with the players. They meet with them individually, they build a plan, and they execute the plan throughout the year. And then usually about 3 times a week, we have our strength coaches coming in, Terry Blizzard leading the way there to work with our guys to make sure that they're maintaining, but also building upon the great strength that they built in the off season.
Talk about this year again. Last year it was last place in the Maritime Division. This year is just a pressure cooker. I mean, there's no nights off in this division. What's the goal for this team, and what's your expectations?
I think that we're now in a place where I think everyone's looking at us to start to turn a corner. And so I'm looking at this season in kind of halves. What do we look like after the first half? Are we in a position where maybe we could add a little bit to continue the competitiveness into the second half? Or are we maybe not quite there yet because we're still kind of pretty deep on the 17 and 18-year-olds, and maybe we just need to stand pat with that group for the rest of the year and let them to continue to get mileage. But ultimately, I think if we take what some of the experts around our league think kind of where we're going to finish, we'd really like to be able to surprise them and continue to trust our process toward the next championship.
You've got a Mem Cup championship in your resume, and you've got several medals from Hockey Canada. To go back to that Memorial Cup championship, an interesting year. You spend the majority of the year with Gordy, and then Gardner comes in. What did you take from both those head coaches?
Yeah, two very different styles, I'd say. Like Gordy is a very technically sound, demanding coach who I quite enjoyed working with. Like Gordy and I have a very a strong personal relationship, and I consider him like a real good friend of mine. And then Gardner, not so much on the technical side of things, more on the motivational side of things. And I mean, just world class at that. Like, I don't know if there's anyone who can match the ability to motivate players and create joy in an environment that he can. So I learned a lot from those two different styles. It kind of almost, in a way, for me as an assistant coach, just having that opportunity to work with two different coaches in such a short period of time probably expedited my learning.
Well, you talk about working with so many different coaches. You're modern day Shawn Michaels. You've got the Grand Slam. You've coached with the O, the W, the Q, and Hockey Canada. To put it into a big perspective, could you imagine how far the game has been able to take you all over this world?
No, not at all. I think the most obvious thing for me is the amount of places I've been able to go, especially through Hockey Canada. I remember this past summer at the Gretzky Halinka tournament, shortly after the tournament ended, my mom had texted me and she said, wow, like you've been so many places. You've been way more places already in your life than I'll ever get to. Like, pretty cool to hear that. Like, just knowing I've been to so many different countries already and seen so many different things. The games afforded me a lot, and I'm super, super grateful for that.
We go back to the Sonny, back to your playing career, and it's your senior season, and you get the opportunity. You get told, "Hey, you're going to be out for some time," but you get put into a role where you're developing into coaching. What is the biggest piece of advice that you would go back and give that kid?
Well, how this all started for me was my coach had said, like, you should consider coaching. And I remember I was so mad about that. I was so mad. I remember I left that meeting thinking, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, he doesn't think I'm any good. And, you know, reflecting about that, he was right. I wasn't any good. But I think just in the moment, like, it's okay to be upset. But now that I'm kind of on the other side of things as a coach, you really are only looking out for the best interest of the player and how that player could become something great in their life, whether it's playing or another career. Like, you really want to be able to have an impact on their lives in some regard. And I think that's what I would tell myself. Like, as a player, like, this coach is literally just trying to look out for me, and like, he sees something in me, maybe not as a player, but in some other regard. So he's trying to, like, spark some interest here in something. And I mean, I think ultimately he was right. Like, the players would be the judge on if I'm, like, a good coach or not, but I sure love doing this.
Well, I mean, again, we talk about between the O, the W, the Q, and even Hockey Canada. Like, when you get that first call from Hockey Canada saying, we want you on a staff and we want you brought into this organization, what's going through your mind?
Honestly, in a way, it kind of felt like I was being drafted into the military. Like, what an honor to serve your country. And I remember that first one, going into it being like, I'm not going to sleep. I'm going to stay up all night watching video. I want them to know, like, that I work really hard. It was, it felt very, very surreal almost that that I would be picked for something like that.
So you come in as a video coach. It was the U17s in 2016, correct?
You got it.
Okay, so at that spot, you start moving up and you start progressing through. What is the biggest lessons you learned, I guess, working with Hockey Canada?
I think number one is trusting the people that are there. Like Hockey Canada goes through a pretty lengthy process in selecting the staffs that they do. And everyone's there for a reason, because they're good at certain things, or they have certain personalities that maybe offset or match other personalities. So trusting everyone around you that like they have good ideas, allow them to execute on that, make them feel empowered and like they have ownership on that. And then the second thing is probably be like an absolute sponge. You get like 2 or 3 weeks with a whole new staff, whole new set of players. Learn as much as you can and like take bits and pieces from each person and bring them back to your environment.
Who've been some of those coaches that have been the biggest influence you in those experiences?
Honestly, there's a few, but I'll go back to that 2016 year. The head coach of our team was Paul Boudelaire, and Paul was maybe the very first coach who I'd worked with that really demonstrated empowering everyone. I remember the two assistant coaches and myself, we were like very much responsible for all the like video delivery, the systems packages. And so that was kind of my first glimpse of that. And then a goalie coach that I've worked with on 3 separate occasions now, Dan De Palma in Kamloops in the Western League. I've really liked his approach to working with the goalies, but he also manages to do it in a way that helps translate information to players really well, so they learn how to attack and score goals. And the relationship that he and I have built has been pretty special. Some would say we kind of look alike a little bit, so I actually call him Dad. Yeah, just built a very strong relationship with him through that, and then probably the other one for me that kind of stands out would be Gardner again. Like we worked together at the 2024 World Championship in Finland, and then again, like a moment that kind of sticks out for me was when we were playing the US going into the third period, and they were just absolutely dominating us. And when I speak about like world class and motivating, I remember we were in the intermission, and he said like, hey, he calls me Critch. He's like, hey, Critch, what's happening out there? I'm like, well, one team looks like they played together for 2 years, and one team looks like they played together for 10 days. And then so he asked the other 2 coaches, can you check to see how many games they've played together the past 2 years? And can you check how many practices you think they've had over the past 2 years? And then he just quickly took that information, went out in the room, and asked the guys which team is nervous going into the third. I think at the time we were down a goal or 2. And he asked which team is nervous and which team is not. And I think one of the guys raised their hand and said, well, we're nervous. And the message was like, we have no reason to be nervous. Like, we only came together like 10 days ago. They've played like 160 games, 200 plus practices, and they're only up 1 goal on us. Like, how should that be? How should that be against a team that was only put together 10 days ago? So we have no reason. They should be actually really nervous. And I think that just kind of like lightened the load mentally on the guys. But, you know, when I think of like packaging, like taking information and packaging in a motivational way, like I don't know if there's anyone else who can do it like that.
You picked up Lady Mo in that dressing room at that point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now this summer was Holinka Gretzky for you. Within that experience, and now you just keep progressing up the lane. I mean, you had a chance as a head coach with Hockey Canada in U18, or was it U17?
U17. Yeah.
U17. Now Holinka Gretzky. What's your aspirations with that organization?
If they call me, I'm going. That's just it for me. I've never really had a plan of like, okay, I want to do this, and then up here, then up here. For me, it's always been very rewarding. I always learn something. And then, I mean, the network and the relationships that I've been afforded to be able to build has been super special. So I've never really, I don't think, looked at it that way. Like, I mean, they could call me tomorrow and be like, "Hey, we need a video coach for the U17 team." Sure, I'm going. Like, I just love it.
U17s are in Truro this year, and I know there'll be people that made the trip over to PEI to see it. Give us your best sales pitch to move tickets at the World 17 at the Eastlink Community Center, because it's going to be a big event.
Oh yeah, like every single year at that U17 tournament, it's literally the best of the best players who, in 4 years' time, you're going to be seeing like enter the NHL as 19 or 20-year-olds. Those guys are going to be the names you hear called in the first round of the NHL draft in 2 years' time. There are at the very minimum, in my mind, of the 6 to 8 teams that are usually there, like 20 to 30 absolute studs, like studs. So to have the opportunity to see them when they're only 16 years old, and then 2 years' time they're going to be walking up on the stage in the first round, I think that's a pretty special thing to be able to say. I saw him in Truro in November in 2025.
To go back to seeing kids as they progress, your goalie, what's the first thing you look for in a goaltender when you're scouting them?
Probably for me, it's puck tracking. Like I kind of equate it to, like, we call them as coaches, we call them back catchers, because it's kind of similar in the way, like, you need to be able to, like, have visual access to the puck all the time. It's not enough to just let the puck hit you, because a rebound could squirt out, and if you're not visually tracking it, you won't know, like, how to move next. So I think that's like the very first thing for me when I'm evaluating goalies.
You've been in the game for 2 decades in that coaching role. What's the biggest change in that position of goaltending?
Of goaltending?
Goaltending, yeah.
I think the number one thing is size. It's changed a lot. I think back to when I started coaching in the CHL in Ottawa for a year, and then moving to Kelowna. The size of the goalies has just increased dramatically. I mean, when did you ever see, aside from maybe like Olaf Kolzig and Sean Burke, guys that are in the net that are over 6'4", 6'5"? Now there's just a ton of them. That'd probably be the biggest thing.
It's insane to see the pad, just the length of the pad spread, and they're covering the entire net. They're taking that option completely away.
It's really an advantage, because I think when you're that size, you can make a lot more mistakes, because pucks are still going to hit you.
You've been all over the world. New Zealand. How did that happen, and what was it like being in ice hockey in New Zealand?
So, I'll probably be a bit long-winded on this, but
take your time, man. I'm very curious about hockey on the other side of the world.
So this all started with, I wanted to go to New Zealand to try and, like, follow the All Blacks around, because I was like, I'm a big rugby fan. I played rugby growing up, and I always wanted to, like, see what they do. I'd read like a number of books on it. I always watched them play. I was like, I got to go there, and I got to see if I can, like, get in to see some practices or something. So I had a contact who actually afforded me that opportunity. So that was kind of initially why I was going over there. And then ended up getting connected with someone over there who is involved in the New Zealand Ice Hockey League. And they had asked, would I be willing to come over and help the team out? So yeah, sure. So I ended up being an assistant coach. And when I got over there, word of mouth traveled, and some people in the hockey community had asked me, would I be willing to, like, go around the country and teach people how to coach hockey? Because most of the people coaching over there have no hockey background. It's all like cricket, rugby, soccer. So I kind of did a little bit of that too while I was helping this team out. And along my travels, I found some like really, really interesting stuff. So the first thing was all the sticks, everyone was shooting right-handed. And I was like, why is everyone shooting right-handed? And the reason for that was because field hockey sticks are right-handed. So I think when hockey like first made its way to New Zealand, they didn't realize that you can shoot left-handed too. So like people who maybe naturally would shoot left-handed had to learn how to shoot right-handed. So then I kind of got to thinking like you can bring in 5 import players per year. So one of the messages to the team I was working with, when you're bringing in import players, only bring in lefties. Like it'll be a pretty big advantage. The second thing I noticed early on was all the rinks over there are only designed for like public skating. So they only have 2 dressing rooms in the rinks. So I remember this team I was helping out, the Bonnie Swarm, had a game and go into the room after the game, and there's a beer league team in there at the same time getting dressed to go out on the ice. So I look at the coach and I'm like, how are we going to talk to the team right now? He's like, oh no, that's all right. They're good. So like our team is like still in our jersey sitting there. And then there's like a guy with no shirt on, like tying his skates next to him. And we're trying to address the team. And then one of the rinks actually only had 1 dressing room. So both teams get dressed in the same room. When it was time for like us to go in and address our team, they would leave and vice versa. So it was like really, really unique. One of the rinks that had only 1 dressing room, the visiting team had to get dressed in a shed outside the rink. And then you walk on a rubber mat into the rink. There's only 5 rinks in the whole country. And one of them's outside. Really cool. It's set in a mountain on the South Island in Lake Tikabo, like so picturesque. And yeah, it's literally like nestled in a mountain. You'll have to look it up after. And it's like under the stars. It's so beautiful. Really, really cool experience.
Is that the most picturesque place you've ever been involved with the game?
Yeah, I can't think of any like you're literally on the ice and you can look out through the glass. And there's just like mountains and a beautiful lake and like the moon, like stars.
That's incredible.
Yes.
I'm surprised. We don't have that here in Canada, let alone. That'd be incredible to have.
Yeah.
That type of infrastructure.
Really, really fascinating.
What was the play like in New Zealand for hockey?
Very, I would say probably on like a junior B level. The age group was pretty vast. Like we're looking at 18-year-olds on the team I was helping. We had a guy, he's basically like the Jaromir Jagr of New Zealand. I think he was 44 at the time. And I think he continued to play for a couple more years. So yeah, I ended up doing that for the summer. And then when I was leaving, kind of thought that was goodbye, so to speak. And they actually asked me to be the GM of the team. I said, well, I'm not coming back. And they're like, yeah, but we like your ideas. We like kind of what you're starting here. Could you do it remotely? I said, well, okay, but there are some things that probably won't be able to be executed as well as we'd like them to, but I'm very much happy to help. And so, yeah, that's what I did for, I think, 2 or 3 summers. We do like a weekly meeting with the coaches, a weekly meeting with the captains, a weekly meeting with the volunteers on Zoom. I would still do all the recruiting of the import players. And I felt like it was something I wanted to do, but it was also something that I felt necessitated to do because of how well they treated me there. Like I wanted to give back to them because they were great people. Still keep in touch with a lot of them and still follow the team in the summers. It was an unbelievable experience.
And again, when you're in there and you have a beer league team changing, and your other coach said, "No, they're good. We're okay." How comparable is New Zealand with Newfoundland? Because that is the direct comparison I have on that one.
Oh, it was just I think that's what like drew me to there. Like when I was there, it was a very laid back way of life. Like no one was in a rush. everyone was very like inviting and welcoming, and like, I mean, it doesn't get more inviting or welcoming than that. Hey, we're gonna recap the game now. Like, you guys, you're good here.
What'd you pick up from the All Blacks? And we'll get into a little bit of rugby as well, if you had a chance to
Yeah, I think the probably the biggest two things were how they create their like team culture and environment is very much connected to like the culture of the country. So I know that a lot of people, like, you read the books and you try to replicate kind of what they do. I think you can try to do a few things, but it's really impossible to replicate all of it because of the culture there is so much different. The way of living, the way of life. So I think they do a very good job of connecting those two. And the second thing is, so many of their decisions that they make, no matter like how minor, have some level of it being informed by science. Like, the amount of scientific ways of like tracking players' output and statistics and all these different kinds of things that they use to help inform their decisions. I wouldn't say that it's like the primary way how they make decisions, but there's definitely some level of information from that area that goes into their decision making. That is, it was kind of like mind blowing.
That's really came into hockey over the last decade. How do you feel about analytics in the game?
I think it's really important. I think that like right now for us, when it comes to statistics, I think that much like what I mentioned with the All Blacks, very helpful with making decisions. We don't put it at the top of our decision-making process, but it's definitely a part of it. And I think of something like expected goals. That's been something that we're kind of keen to see the next morning. Like, okay, we rewatched the game, and here's kind of what we saw. Now, what did the numbers say? Did the numbers say that we actually should have scored more goals than we did, or vice versa? What were the expected goals on the power play versus the penalty kill? So we always want to know some of those things to maybe just help us be more conclusive in the decision we made, or maybe, I don't know, maybe we didn't sleep much the night before, and we look at it and we're like, oh, did we miss something? Like, let's go back and look to make sure. So that would be how we use it.
To go back to rugby as well, what position did you play, and what drew you to that game?
So I played inside center.
Okay.
And I think it was, there was a group of like me and my friends. We all kind of joined the same time. And I think it was a couple of our older brothers were playing. And there's a rugby club in St. John's called Swiler's Rugby Club, and they wear the Republic of Newfoundland colors, the pink, white, and green. And my first image that comes to my head is we're at one of my best friend's house, and his brother walks in after rugby, and he's got on those like pink, white, and green rugby socks. And I honestly think that's what it was. Like, I want to be able to wear those socks. Those are cool. And it ended up being when I got married, that's what my wedding socks were, the pink, white, and green. So that's probably what drew me and my friends to it early on.
So are you aware that there is a wrestling group in the independent scene here in the Maritimes called the Newfoundland World Order, and they have the NWO logo in the pink, white, and green?
No way.
Yes.
I didn't know
Yes
that.
way. Yes.
I gotta get a t-shirt.
Yeah, their t-shirts are selling like hotcakes. I'll make sure you get one. And that gets me to my next question. Because we talk culture. How much is pro wrestling culture ingrained in the St. John Sea Dog team?
Oh, it's there. It's there. Like, the guys know that I love wrestling, and we have a few different things that we include, like sayings, like at the end of games when we win, like we'll do whose game was it? SNB, yeah, like LA night, yeah. We also incorporate like the Ric Flair robes for we call them the men of the match. So we have 3 Ric Flair robes. We actually have a picture of Ric Flair in a robe in the room. Currently going pretty hard on the Jacob Fatu all gas, no break.
Okay.
Yeah. So always try to incorporate a few of those things. And I tell the guys kind of like the meaning behind it to maybe see if it spikes some interest in wrestling a little bit. Like, I know our captain last year, Nate Tivy, he became like, I think he had some interest in wrestling. He became like much more interested. I know that Jacob Beaulieu has a little bit of interest in it now that he's been around a little bit. So always nice to see a few of the guys watching.
Who were your guys growing up?
My guy growing up was always Stone Cold.
Okay.
Before that, it was probably the Ultimate Warrior. I always wanted to see the Warrior live, and I was pretty young.
Mhm.
My dad took me to a live show to see the Warrior, and I can vaguely remember it, but like my dad and my older cousin Mark were there. And when the Warrior came down with that sprint and shaking the ropes, it absolutely terrified me. Like I was in tears, so scared about it. And then like as 90s progressed, like became an all-in Austin guy and still am to this day.
Yep.
Like, I feel like it's blasphemy if I purchase any WWE merchandise that is not Austin related.
Okay.
So like I'm only Austin merchandise stuff. As much as like there's a bunch of other cool stuff, I feel very loyal to him.
Do you have a collection? Because when we interviewed Trevor, after we were done on Around the Maritimes, and he told me his favorite match was Masato Tanaka versus Mike Austin, I was like, all right, we're going deep in the weeds here. He started showing me his figure collection, which I thought was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a collection as well?
So I'm not like a figure guy.
Yeah.
I'm an Austin t-shirt guy.
Okay.
So like any t-shirt that is out there or available, I either have or I'm buying, to the point where once upon a time at home in Newfoundland, me and my friends had a Stone Cold theme party where like every single one of my friends wore a Stone Cold t-shirt at the party.
A lot of Steve Weiser's taken in that night.
Oh yeah.
How many guys gave the smash down? Did you have a competition in that?
Oh yeah. So that's a big part of my lifestyle too. Yeah.
Perfect.
And like I'm very picky on how that's done. If that's not done properly, I'm the first to say it's not done properly.
Just want to give you a friendly reminder about Eastlink's perfect pair. It is gig internet and unlimited wireless. You got to call 1-888-345-1111 to find out the details about this great deal. Check in at the Eastlink stores or visit eastlink.ca, and why not make that perfect pair into the trio? I'm sure you could talk to them about adding that TV along. Then you get it on the TiVo stream. You have to take that TV everywhere with you. You get to watch all the exciting action for QMJHL Friday Night Hockey on Eastlink. Once again, 1-888-345-1111 or visit eastlink.ca for all the details.
Travis, couple icings in a row there and kind of get yourself caught deep in your zone. But what are you liking over your start so far?
Nothing.
Fair enough. Thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
Guys.
Boy, that's reminiscent of my Ian Herbert or Ross Quackenbush interview back in the day, and Travis short and to the point, and sometimes there is nothing else to say.
Well, yeah, and he didn't say, he said nothing to the team and break, so maybe that's a message in itself. Sometimes silence is gold, and didn't say a word, just stood there, talked to Mavs.
So we had a memorable moment on the bench. It was one of those lean years for St. John. And I asked you, what'd you like about your start? And what was your answer?
I think it was nothing.
And you know what? To be fair, great answer. And there's not much for me to follow up with on that. So like, all right, well, thanks. But then, so give us the backstory on that, because you got a chance to, you hit me with the nothing, and that was it. What was going on through your mind there?
So I think at that time we were in a streak of some pretty like poor performances, but not in the ways of in like wins and losses, just like general like competitiveness. Mm-hmm. Something we always talk about in St. John. And stemming on that, like from that competitiveness, was like a lack of jump in our starts. So, this had been like 4 or 5 games in a row now where the first like 10 minutes came out like really slow. The same thing was kind of happening again, despite us like talking about it a lot with the group and trying to change some things to increase our intensity at the start of games. So when you had asked me that, kind of two things went through my mind. One was literally nothing, because I remember Charlottetown were like taking it to us in that first 10. So it was either that or first 10 minutes is over. Like that those were the only really two good things that could have, like, I think I could have said. Or maybe the goalie, like the goalie was playing well. But what happened after that was like, I remember I saw the clip and I said nothing. And then I'm like, I look like I'm trying to hold in a laugh. And when I saw it, in my mind, I was like, oh man, I look like such a, like an asshole right now. Like I'm like demeaning the players, but that's not like what had happened at all. I said nothing. And we had a player who was pretty close to you, and he was actually sitting the first period because he was late to the meeting earlier in the day. So that was kind of younger group. So that's kind of what we were doing. Like if you're late, like first time you'll miss a period, next time you'll miss a game. So that was that moment for him. And I remember when I said nothing, he like kind of nudged the guy next to me. He's like, oh, maybe I'll get to play now. And I just like, I just couldn't like stop. I don't know why I found that really funny in the moment. Cause like,
buddy, it's you're down 2 or 3. Yeah. Everything's going not the way. And he's just sitting there like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll get it. maybe I'll get a reprieve from the governor. I'll get back out, get some ice time.
Yeah.
Though it's my first time doing a coach interview. Again, and most of my sportscasting was basketball.
Okay.
A little bit of football before I got into hockey. Eastlink gave me the call. It was a kind of an AP late season fill up, the call up, if you will. And I go on the bench, and it's the Sea Dogs in the year against Nathan McKinnon and the Moose.
Okay.
So already, my first spot there with the visiting coach, you're down 3. And there's been 2 scored on the power play. Mike Kelly's on the bench. And I'm up there, and I lead in with one question. I forget the question. And then the next one was like, so what do you tell your team about discipline? Was my follow-up. And he just gruffed, stop taking practice. I'm like, all right. And I scamper off the bench. Our camera holds on Mike as he's watching me scamper. And he did not hold back in his feelings after the question that was just asked by me. And I get to the truck like, yeah, he just gave you as you were running off, he was giving you an earful as you were getting out. So I run into him at a golf tour later. I said, Mike, just a heads up, I did this. This was my first time. And apparently you told me where to go and how to get there as I was going off. He was so apologetic. I'm like, don't apologize. It's the best first story of doing this gig. And like, welcome to hockey and welcome to the Q. Congratulations. You had your rookie lap there with him. So yeah, it's again, it's interesting to go on the bench and have to ask those questions in spots where coaches have just. It's not going right. It is a tough spot. And I know your coaching game. What's going through your mind when you see any reporter hop up on the bench and ask the question mid game?
Usually it's surprise because you're told about it beforehand, but you just forget about those things. I mean, even when it comes to a player who has to do an interview, like in the intermission or something like that, like you're told about those things before. And I'll even go as far like to just write it in the corner of my game card just to remember to we got to tell the player to do that. But you just get in the heat of the moment, and then all of a sudden there's someone like standing. You're like, whoa, like, and they're like, oh yeah, like got to talk, like so. That surprise, it can go one of two ways. Like you can maybe be feeling like pretty good, and be conversive, or it might just be like a tough time to be there.
Yeah, it's tough for both sides. I get to go up and do my Mean Gene Oakland bash at the beach. It was fun when the Islanders lost in the finals and there was garbage strewing down upon the ice. I made sure to throw in I feel like Mean Gene at Bash at the Beach '96. So, anytime I can swizzle in a nice little wrestling reference, it's going over the plate. Because last night in the game we talked about Alexi Joseph at 6'4", 16, and you can't teach that.
You cannot.
Awesome. Yeah, no. I will ask you this. You had a health scare on the bench.
Oh, yeah.
A few years back.
Yeah.
What did that kind of do for your perspective on life?
Prioritize like your own health, really. I think I'm cut from a cloth of make sure no one ever questions your work ethic, and you're only calling in like sick if you're dead, so to speak, like the kind of macho, like manly stuff. And I think that's okay to some extent, but when it gets to kind of that level where something like that happens, it maybe puts it into perspective a little bit. Like, hey, it might actually do yourself and in turn everyone some good if you slept an extra hour or two, or like if you're sick, like listen to your body and don't just kind of keep trucking along, so to speak. But it's hard. It's hard at the same time because you love the game and you want to be involved and you want to be in it and you want to go through the grind of it. But I think that would be the biggest thing. Like if you have an opportunity to get an extra hour of sleep, do it. If you're really, really sick, which I was at the time, like, hey, we have other capable people here. It might actually be best if I listen to Jeff Kelly, our athletic therapist, don't go out there for the third period.
It was to that point where you were so ill, it was like, hey, take a knee.
So that whole day was a bit of a whirlwind. I had been like quite sick for probably 4 or 5 days leading into that day. That specific day, the only kind of things I recall were sitting down for breakfast. I was there earlier than kind of the team, but our bus driver was there. And I sat down to eat with him. And I sat down, like, looked at my food, and I was like, I don't think I can eat any of this. And, like, I was feeling dizzy. Yeah, apparently, like, between the second and third period, I went in and I spoke to the team. And then I came out and I was, like, kind of leaning over a table, like, on a Gatorade cooler. And Jeff had come to me and said, don't go out there for the third. And I just went out there anyway. And then, like, I don't know, a minute into the period, I was down. And yeah, like there was nothing really health-wise wrong with me other than the fact that I was really sick. I hadn't like ate or drank anything it was almost about 4 days. So I just needed to get rehydrated and take care of myself.
You say you didn't listen to the body. The body said, "Wake up, son!
Yeah.
It's time to take a break."
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Travis, buddy, I appreciate you taking some time again to hop aboard the Around the Maritime podcast. You're standing on your feet, and you're no bumps. Stay on the feet. You don't need to tuck the chin. You don't need to take the flat back. You're working. You're working nice, man. And so are your Sea Dogs. Look forward to even more from you guys this year.
Appreciate the opportunity to have me on here. It's great.
Wicked.
All right. Thanks for joining us again on the Around the Maritime podcast. Thanks again to Travis Crickard and Dave Curnew for joining me on this episode. Great conversations with both gentlemen. And I think my microphone's getting a little low, so I might have to go to find a new cord for that. But working through the audio and making it all happen. We're just living the gimmick. Anyways, we'll be back with more on Around the Maritimes, the official English podcast of the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League.